move towards the stanza number 2. Stanza number 2 is: the land's sharp features seem to be the century's corpse outlined. His script the cloudy canopy, the wind his death lament. The ancient pulse of germ and birth was shrunken, hard and dry, and every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. So the second stanza represents the events and changes occurring throughout the century. The land's sharp feature symbolizes what? Outlines. Feature means outlines of landscape. So the second stanza represents the events and changes occurring throughout the century. Yes, poet is talking about the 19th century. The land sharp feature symbolize the deceased century, and clouds act as a covering, concealing its lifeless form. So landscape seem to him what? Definitely gloomy, as the century is dawning and the new century is about to begin. So the poet here compares the gloomy landscape to the century which is corpse. Corpse, I have told you the meaning, means a dead body. The dead body of the century outstretched on the ground. The sky is crypt. Crypt is like a burial place. Clouds act as a covering where dead body of the century will be buried. Here the body of the century will be buried. What does it mean? The poet basically suggests that how the landscape undergone the century will be buried. Here the poet basically suggests that how the land undergone the century. The wind song is gloomy or sad, and that is a dead song. The wind is lamenting on the death of the century. Death imagery is basically implied in the second stanza, as this poem is an elegy. Elegy is mourning over the death of someone. So this poem deals with the death. Imagery is employed in the second stanza, as this is an elegy poem mourning over the death of the century. So wind lament on the death of the century brought about by the birth of the technology and revolution in the 19th century. The ancient pulse of germ and birth refers to the life-giving forces of nature and the cycle of growth and creation that have existed since ancient time and now have withered away, becoming barren, lifeless, which has no life. Every spirit on earth seems fervorless. Here the poet uses hyperbole, as he feels that all life on earth lacks vitality and passion. Nothing remains. In other words, the world has lost its vitality and creative force, reflecting the speaker's own inner desolation and lack of spirit. So this is about the second stanza, how the poet says that death imagery is employed, and how it laments on the death of the century. Wind is basically laments on the death of the century.